What is hate that the hater is so hated for his or her hate? Nothing in the modern world seems quite so hated as the person identified as a hater. The hateful person is targeted for destruction, it seems, by any means possible. A person identified as a hater is often so hated they lose their civil rights, and even the courts become vehicles for their persecution and prosecution. But what breeds such a level of animosity from others, particularly on the left, because you hate someone? How many lovers turn into haters without the full force of the law coming down on them? The answer is that the hater causes the hated to think. My hate causes the hated to question themselves and their values, or lack of them. If I hate you, my hate forces you to justify your bigotry. My hate makes the target of my hate appear as a hypocrite because they realize they hate me. Naturally, I am hated for my hate. The question that is not asked, but ought to be asked by those who are hated, is who are they that anyone ought to like them? What right has the hated to demand anyone tolerate them, let alone like them? There are or were many persons a society did not tolerate and did hate. It is said that it is not hate that is the problem, it is why we hate. We are not permitted to hate people with darker skins than us or who do not follow British ways. But why, precisely? What are we obliged to make them feel welcome? The truth is, no one has the right to condemn the hater, because there is much that is deserving of hate, in all of us. The fact that we do not hate a good portion of who we are, or understand how justified the hate of us is a good reason why others would find us objectionable. To put this in context, let's postulate or propose Tom is a black person who hates whites. Tom supports BLM and an advocate of critical race theory. Tom defends the 1619 Project and every affirmative action policy that promises to benefit his race. Tom is an activist who mocks white fragility and who preaches incessantly against white supremacy and white privilege and systemic racism. Tom demands whites pay repartitions and shut up and stay out of black spaces and black narratives. Tom wants all the best places turned into black spaces. Tom wants white people to take a knee in support of black victims of white racism and white systems, as a prelude to handing over their freedom. If I, as a white person, accept the hate of Tom, I am not a hater. I as a white person must embrace the hate of Tom, otherwise I am not recognizing Tom's right to hate me. To even attempt to negotiate my position, means I as a white person, am attempting to silence Tom and behaving aggressively against him. This gives Tom the right to respond in whatever means Tom has available. The law will more than likely be on the side of Tom. If Tom is not permitted to hate me, what does that say about me? Surely it would be said that as a white person I claim I am above being hated. Was the slave permitted to hate his master? The obsequiousness of the black slave was a parody of affection. If I cannot tolerate Tom's hated of me and my white skin, I am racist. Only as a racist will I hate the hatred that Tom has for me. Hate is always returned with hatred. Hate breeds hate. But if the hate becomes institutionalized and politically legitimized that the hate cannot be returned, what is the consequence? Hate cannot eliminate hate even with the backing of the state. The only way hate can be dampened and perhaps reversed is through permitting hate to flourish. Hate must die by its own hand. BLM will not turn the hearts and minds of the KKK towards a desire for reconciliation. When Tom curses me for my whiteness, must I love Tom? What is there to love? If hatred based on race is wrong, so is love that is based on race not only wrong but absurd. On the other hand, if I hate Tom for his hate, I am claiming I am not something deserving of hate. But whites, in accepting they have no right to demand love, have erred in the hypocrisy of abasement. There is nothing in the color of a man's skin that makes him or her lovable. There is no pride in having been born a certain hue any more than there is shame. Abasement is not tolerance. It is hatred turned inwards, not because of whom you are, but because you have lied to yourself about who they are. You are not lovable, but neither are they. To make it illegal to hate a race or religion is to make not favoring them a hate crime. You are guilty of a hate crime until you can prove your choice was not due to your hate, based on the race or religion of the one not chosen. Hate is an emotion. Your hate for me does not impose any obligation on me. Why ought I hire you or work with you if I do not choose to, regardless of your race or religion or sex? It does not matter what you hate me for, or why I hate you. I do not have to recompense you for your imagined loss or hurt. If we have free speech, then we have the freedom to feel as we choose. Why are we free to love who we wish, but not to hate whom we wish? Your sense of racial injustice imposes no obligation on me. You hate me. That is your choice. I do not need to try and alleviate your hate. It is yours to intensify or reduce as you see fit. I do not own or control the dial of your emotional trauma. Let's imagine Tom has a long-standing hatred for me and my race because of some event that happened generations ago. This is what they call an intergenerational event, such as slavery. Does this mean I owe Tom compensation for his negative feelings? Has the hatred of Tom managed to create an obligation on me or mine? Claims can be made. Things that we value can be priced. But the claim must be reciprocal and balanced by a benefit. They are not determined by a one-sided ultimatum. If I cannot say all white people are racist, then I will have to hire them preferentially, prevent any negative comments about them to be made, and defer to their arguments and perspective. Because a person is white, any negative response to them and will be attributed to my racist hate of white people, unless I can prove otherwise. If I cannot hate a group, then anything I do that does not benefit them can and will be attributed to hate. Let's say you are of the same race as people who were enslaved by people of my race, and you think I owe you repartitions. Perhaps so, but what is the dollar amount? It is not a value anyone can figure out scientifically. If repartitions are owed, then qualifiers must be considered. What has been done by white persons in the intervening years that have benefited the ancestors of slaves? What was the cost of your ancestors' upkeep and passage to America? Once you have been compensated for your ancestors' slavery, you are responsible for their costs. What was the value of the inputs of America and England? How much credit is to be subtracted for the whites' involvement in halting the slave trade, engaging in the Underground Railroad and similar activities in which the loss is to be credited to the account of white people? Proper accounting must be made, if we are talking about proper accounting, which is what repartitions is about. However, this assumes the claim is to be entertained. But why ought I to be held liable for a transaction or contract I had no part in, even were it assumed I or my race benefited from it? Is this a standard to be applied to everyone, or is it just another attempt to get even with one race because of our hatred of them? Calculate the total losses your race experienced and divide it between the living claimants, if you so choose. This is your right. Send your bill and make your case. But the truth is you share in the benefits created by your ancestors. The wealth of the West is enjoyed by you and yours. You are as much a beneficiary of the slave trade as whites. Your car drives on the same roads and your kids go to the same schools as mine. The hospitals, housing, and governments are all shared. Therefore, you partake of the social wealth your ancestors and mine created. What share of the social wealth did whites produce, and how much of this have you enjoyed without proper recompense? If I owe you for the cotton picked by your ancestor, do you not also owe me for the inventions made by whites? It was white men who invented the airplane. Do you fly? Do you drive an automobile? Do you take our drugs, or watch our TV, or use our language? Slavery was based in greed. Tribal chiefs wanted guns and commercial products, and whites wanted cheap labor. It was a match made in hell. But was the white buyer or the black seller the bigger evil? The fault finding does not buy us a path out of hate. There is no resolution to hate because hate is not based on empirical data. The hate is immaterial if it produces no costs, and the costs are immaterial if they are paid for by the source. But the bottom line is that the claim has to be made against a measurable and identifiable loss. Otherwise, all that is being done is the perpetuation of hate. Graffiti creates costs for the community because the value of the community are against graffiti. It does not add value to the space, which is what defines it as graffiti rather than art. The community has a right to expect the cost to be liquidated by the property being returned to its previous condition. The motive for the graffiti is not the issue. We look at the real and measurable cost of actions. Merit is defined by the plus or minus value added to property. A person's merit is defined by the value he or she has created compared to what they have consumed. Many people have a dream. I have a dream that one day people will be judged by the value of their actions, not by physical characteristics and less by their feelings. If you create a cost, pay the price of your actions. Do not expect others to pay your costs for you. Never impose costs onto others. If a person is an unsustainable cost to a community, they need to be expelled. Hate is not the problem, but greed is. You can hate, just don't let it impose costs on anyone else. Let it be and remain a cost you and you alone bears.